Hello. Today's episode number 115 of the Professor Slots podcast discusses the world's oldest slot strategy. Plus, in this episode, I'll be covering the current state of slot machine casino gambling in the great U.S. state of Alaska. Thank you for joining me for the Professor Slots podcast show. I'm John Friedel, and this is a podcast about slot machine casino gambling. It is where I provide knowledge, insights, and tools for helping you improve your slot machine gambling performance. In case you missed it on my last episode, I went over how to win a car from my weekly live stream Q&A session on YouTube. Further, I reviewed Alabama slot machine casino gambling in 2020. I hope you enjoyed listening to my last episode as much as I enjoyed making it for you. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Here's the audio recording of my latest live stream Q&A session. Hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? My name is John Friedel. Welcome to Professor Slots, a channel that's all about mastering casino slots so you can win your way to success. It's great to see you all here again for another Professor Slots podcast episode and live stream. If you're with us live, be sure to say hello and ask your slots-related questions. I'll get to those a little bit later in the show. First off, I should point out that Chuck has given me a super chat. So thank you, Chuck. If you care to do that, when you do a super chat, it's at the bottom of the live chat. If you're here live, you can also ask a question, which will be, definitely something that I will see. Sometimes the live chat can scroll past quite a bit. That's why we have moderators usually. But if you want to make sure I see your question, a live chat is a great way to do that, or just to support the show. It is much appreciated. Hard to believe it's been 3 months since I was laid off. Time flies, but great. So today we're going to be diving into the world's oldest slot machine strategy, which still works. Central computer servers started showing up in casinos around 2012, allowing casinos to move away from paper and clipboards as an accounting method to track their financial performance metrics. Thank you, Davian. Okay. Thank you, Davian, for the super. The super sticker. It's a unicorn. Right. So they moved away from paper and clipboards as an accounting method in 2012, or starting in 2012, to track their financial performance metrics. Along with already getting rid of coins 10 years earlier, this automation significantly streamlined casino operations. I'm talking about this because casinos also use these servers to engage in standard casino business practices. For instance, about 1 in 3 casinos will provide a quick taste, a small win within the first few bets of sitting down at a slot machine in the hopes that you'll spend that along with whatever else you brought with you. Unless you're very new to my channel, you already know my suggested response when you find common business practices. My winning slots strategy 1, only win immediately, also more fondly known as the 5-pull method. It means going from machine to machine and collecting the taste from each. Each one of my winning slot strategies takes this same approach. I find common casino business practices, then figure out how a player might respond so that they have improved chances of winning. And of course, I also cover casino safety, money management, gambling goals, and all the rest, which slots enthusiasts need to do to master casino slots to win their way to success. The winning slot strategies I've uncovered so far, and I've given numbers to 7 of them, are based on the casino having a central computer server connected to all the slot machines. The point of today's live stream is this: one option already existed before central servers arrived. Now there are many. Before, there was only one. Open a slot machine, refer to that machine's probability account report, PAR, and turn up the odds for a while. Thanks, Chris Magny. I'm not sure if he's in the live chat today for that FAR terminology used by the slot manufacturers. Anybody who buys a slot machine gets that report with the slot machine. Anyway, to get the best marketing value from this business practice, do it for a slot machine easily visible from a distance by groups of other slots enthusiasts. And of course, work with accounting to decide on a budget for this hidden promotion. That's what casinos do. This isn't speculation. It happened to me. I used to think about slot machines the same way my critics do today. I think I just saw a comment come by. But maybe not. I didn't read the whole thing. It just flashed across the screen. Slot machines are entirely random, they would say. There are laws preventing this. And even if there weren't, casinos must win to keep the lights on. I hear stuff like that. So what happened to me to change the way I used to think about slots? What caused the birth of Professor Slots? Everything came from my experiencing this casino business practice firsthand. You might say it blew my mind. It caused me to rethink how slots work. It caused me to reverse engineer what casinos had done to me, to my benefit and yours. So after my first casino gambling experiences started in 2003, I spent more and more time thinking about them and without much progress. I wasn't yet thinking about how to win. Rather, I was thinking about the potential dangers of what I was getting into. Eventually, I made a decision to keep trying to figure out this whole slots gambling thing. I wasn't expecting to win any significant amount of money. Not ever. Rather, I was hoping not to lose a significant amount of money. With this reasoning in mind for proceeding with gaining additional slot machine gambling experiences, I took a long look around where I lived, which was in central Iowa at the time, for any nearby casinos within driving distance. As it happened, there was a nice casino relatively nearby. In fact, its size and facilities far exceeded what I'd ever heard about casinos being like before. My previous slots experiences were, if you read my book, it's Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and then basically next to a national forest. You drive for hours through trees, and you come across a casino, a tribal casino, of course, for Michigan. They only have commercial casinos around the Detroit area, and this is 2003-ish, and so I just. It was a bizarre experience. Anyway, first time in a casino since I watched horse races when I was a kid with my grandmother. So the local casino had table games. This one in Iowa had table games and floors of slot machines, a high limit slot room, and horse racing. And the splendor of the buffet. To all my senses, it was simply delightful. So with that limited assessment of a gambling establishment, about every month or more, I'd take $25 from my monthly graduate student stipend to go there and fully expected to gamble it all away on slot machines. But would I? So for the next few years, this gambling establishment was the only casino I went to. I admittedly had what I still consider to be a fairly wild and crazy time. This casino was Prairie Meadows Racetrack and Casino outside of Des Moines in Iowa, in a small city called Altoona. It's right there on I-80, just before you get to I-35 Mixmaster, the East Mixmaster, not the West Mixmaster, for those of you who have been to Des Moines and understand the terminology. So I started going there in 2004 with my last regular visit we got Jason. Thank you so much, Jason. Happy Halloween to you too as well. Thank you. Thank you for that super chat. Right. So, okay, Joyce. Thank you as well. I'm going to have a shorter sound bite with so many of these coming in. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Joyce, very much. I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting the show. Right. So this was, started in 2004. Last trip was early 2006 after engineering graduate school and moving away to the East Coast of the U.S. to start my career in aerospace, specifically jet engine manufacturing. I learned many things about playing slot machines during those visits, both what seemed to work and what seemed not to work, although it all started out tamely enough. As I mentioned, every few weeks or so, I'd take $25 and play it on slots. After looking around for a while at various slot machines available, I settled on one machine that I liked. It was a fairly typical 20, quarter denomination, a quarter machine, 3 credits max, and some forgettable name that I don't remember. I liked it for 2 reasons, specifically because I had a pay table that was easy to read. And, this is early days, right? So this is my limited assessment. Pay table was easy to read and the real symbols were relatively simple. I had no special requirements other than I didn't want to have to keep figuring out the pay table every time I moved to a different slot machine. A pay table, just to be clear, is a description of what symbols or combination of real symbols results in a win, as well as the cash amount of that win, sometimes just the credit amount. So and I kept records because I was a graduate student and I love spreadsheets. For 20 visits over a 6-month period, I sat and played with a bankroll of $25 at this specific quarter denomination 3 credit slot machine. If I won any small amount, I'd either take it home to use it as my bankroll on the next visit or put it back in immediately to spend it right then on that machine. For the most part, I found this, I was enjoying myself. I remember this time well. I was experiencing what almost all slots enthusiasts experience when they don't know any better. It's fun. It's fun. Anyway, I happened to be a non-smoker. At the time, this casino was often smoky, especially when a smoker sat next to me and lit up a cigarette or a cigar, which bothered my allergies quite a bit. If it became particularly smoky at the casino, I found that after I got home, I had to bag my clothes until wash day, so that I didn't wake up in the middle of the night with a mild asthma attack. There's not liking it and then not being able to breathe. Kind of 2 different categories. However, my real dissatisfaction didn't occur until 6 months passed when I won my first big jackpot. It wasn't a taxable jackpot. It wasn't $1,200 or more, but it happened to be the maximum jackpot that slot machine had to offer, 4,000 credits for $1,000. By then, my gambling records showed that altogether over 6 months of effort, I'd spent nearly $500 to win that $1,000 jackpot. Imagine my sitting there staring at the jackpot for an amount equal to 10% of my annual gross income as a student. And I naively thought tax-free to boot. That was wrong, but this is the beginning. So, but why did I feel disappointment, dissatisfaction? Yes, I'd made back $500 I'd spent over 6 months. Yes, I also had a $500 profit in my hand. But I had realized that I had only had $500 to show for 6 months of effort. Had I even exceeded minimum wage based on all the hours I'd spent gambling? Not even close. I appreciated the win and all. I truly did, but I kept thinking that there has to be a better way to win than doing this. My response, my decision, my deliberate approach was, as usual, to do more research, to do more thinking. With a little thought, I decided that I should search this relatively new thing in 2004 called the World Wide Web, what we, of course, know now as the internet, for any advice it might have for winning when playing slot machines. So the gambling I just described took place around the time Google was starting to become available as a decent internet search engine, including to engineering graduate students such as myself at that time. I proceeded to search online using this remarkable new research tool. What I read online seemed fascinating. I don't remember the specific keywords I used during my internet searches, and certainly don't remember the URL addresses I ended up finding. But the advice I saw went something like this: 1, to win big, bet big. 2, pick a machine that has multipliers, a second spin, or both. And 3, find a machine at or near the end of a row of machines that is near an area where people naturally group together that has both 1 and 2. The first suggestion to win big, bet big, that made a fine logical sense to me. The second suggestion was a bit of an eye opener, but didn't, certainly seem like an excellent idea. The third suggestion struck me as bizarre. Could it be true that a casino would and this is what a lot of my critics object to, could it be true that a casino would actively try to engage, to entice, to effectively manipulate its patrons into gambling from within their own property? How completely fascinating. By the way, these days I consider this to be a branch in the field of marketing, not entirely unique to casinos. So I resolved to try out the suggestions during my next casino visit. This is when my gambling really started to become an interesting story to the people I was talking to, mostly my engineering professors and the staff I most often worked with at the university. Those friends and coworkers were my first audience. So before I take up the story from there and tell you what happened, let's go take a look at the live chat. And, I've got a bunch of hellos. Happy Halloween, everybody. You may notice that I'm dressed a little bit more formally today. This is my Halloween outfit. Let's see. Okay. Jan just said something interesting about living in a different dimension, and Chuck confirmed audio. I always appreciate that, Chuck. I do. Okay. There's definitely some things going on with YouTube. Apparently, this was supposed to start at 4 p.m. Everything I see, I have two different ways of looking at this, and both of them said noon, and even had a clock down to how many seconds were coming up. So if you want to email me with a screen capture of any problems you're having, thank you, Jan. She agreed to do that when I mentioned it earlier. Yep. Hey, Steve. Hey, Chuck. The Chucks are saying hello to each other. Joyce, hello. Okay, so David from Washington, how do your strategies apply to the TLS system at Washington Tribal Casinos? That's pretty interesting. Since they're controlled off-site and the casino doesn't have any input, I'll quickly try to answer this for you. Doesn't have any input. Hopefully you've read professorsotts.com/WA for Washington. That's a link that will take you to my researched article on Washington. I try to make it readable. It's not too researchy, but there's a lot that doesn't apply because the casino doesn't have input. But one of the things because it's not based on the usual lottery that casinos are, based on, like New York has a lottery system that applies to the tribal casinos there. It's one of the 5 different systems that are in the state of New York. But that's applied to the drawing lottery, right? There's 2 kinds of lottery. There's a drawing lottery and there's a scratch ticket lottery. Okay. 2 different things. And the one in Washington is based on scratch tickets, but so they have to make those beforehand, even if it's digital, virtual, electronic. They still have to make those in batches beforehand, and there's got to be a certain percentage on each. So the winning strategy that was discovered by one of the people in the Washington Facebook group for slots enthusiasts is to play with somebody else side by side. Right. It's the best chance to have to be in the same batch of tickets, and try to be doing that when there isn't anybody else playing in that area. You might have to go when it's not busy. And then you can collect all the wins from that batch of scratch tickets. It's a very short explanation. Maybe we'll do something longer. And it's not in the article. I only recently learned of this approach, but it makes perfect sense. So I'll leave it at that. Let's see. Faster 436. Pardon me for not pronouncing that correctly. Heading to Vegas next week. You should take a look at my Visiting Las Vegas article about what to do if you need any tips. And one of the things in that article, you can find it by searching my website into the search tool. Just put in Vegas or something. You can actually look. They're very good about updating their return statistics. You can take a look at the last couple of months and compare them to last year. You can see, look, Right. Yeah, I can, give you an opinion, but why don't you just go look at the data? Yeah. Uh, hey, David. Okay. Right. So, that seems to be the questions. Again, thank you so much for the super chats, super stickers. Appreciate the support. Let's get back to what I was talking about. So after reading about those suggestions online back in 2004, I think I was using Netscape or something to get to Google. Old browsers. Anyway, after reading about those suggestions online and thinking more and more about them, I finally went back to the casino with my recent $500 profit that I won in my prior winnings. I began hunting through all the slot machines looking for high credit, uh, high dollar amount machines, not high limit by any means. I was trying to find, the regular casino floor has a lot more slot machines and the high limit room has very few. And I only had $500. So I decided to try to find something that, wasn't a penny machine, that there wasn't too many in 2004, but not a quarter machine either. And one seemed to be a suggestion was high credits and as much of a dollar amount as I could find on the big casino floor. So that was $1. And I found I examined slot machines on the casino floor for good candidates based on the rules of the day and not at all, not all that I suggest these days, not at all what I suggest these days, like using my goodness ratio or some of the other stuff. So unless I found what appeared to be a nice $1 denomination, eventually I found what appeared to be a nice $1 denomination, 5 credit machine with multipliers included in its real symbols, except it was located in a quiet corner of the casino. So it was a 5 times play machine, play or pay. I never remember. 5 times pay machine, 5x multipliers. It's nice when you get all 5. That's the top jackpot. But right. I like this machine because it fit at the first 2 criteria. Unfortunately, it wasn't located in a busy area. So I kept up my research. This is before I, realized you can talk to any slots enthusiast and they would tell you where any machine was in the casino if you were looking for something specific. Again, this is just early days when I hadn't even thought through anything really, but very little. So I kept up my search, eventually finding the same exact model of slot machine elsewhere in the casino. It was ideally located, assuming the advice I'd gotten from the internet was sound, as the second to last machine in a row near the casino's main bar area. At the time, I remember being struck by how odd it was that all 3 criteria could be met with such relatively little effort. I make sure, I'm much less surprised these days, about having an instinct for pattern recognition. At the time I was, learning. So unbeknownst to me, a wild and crazy time of my life was about to commence. There I was. It's 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, right? 9 a.m. Yep. 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning. I'm looking at the best candidate yet based on the suggestions I'd found online for winning at slot machine gambling. I had $500 in hand and I was ready to go. So all I had to do now was put my money into the slot machine and start hitting the maximum bet button. I found it surprisingly difficult to put that much money into a machine. I was reluctant. This reluctance, by the way, is what I now consider to be the main reason for my then near future success when playing slot machines. This particular slot machine, everybody that had been playing that specific slot machine had also found themselves reluctant to put a lot of money into that slot machine. They'd probably felt that way for months, if not for a few years. People would, win a hand pay or something, and they'd be like, "Hey, I'm not putting any more money in the machine. I'm out." But I think most people were putting $20 in, hit max bet twice, and then taking their money with any winnings and left. But not me. No, sir. I pressed on with my plan. I proceeded to put the whole $500 into it and press the max bet button until it was gone. Naturally, nothing went according to plan again. See, my bankroll didn't go away. I found myself winning small jackpots, lots of small jackpots, each worth less than $1,200. The taxable, we call it the so-called taxable limit. It's all taxable, but that's the one where you get a W-2G. So there were immediately automatically taxable. There were so many of these jackpots that I tried for a little while to, use my pen to like make small hash marks and count up. I had a little area for $25. I think that was the smallest amount. The cherry, I got a lot of cherries. By a lot, I mean like hundreds, several hundreds of them. But there was $75, $100. $200. I remember $500. I kept over here, had a little spot for that. $750, and then the 1,000 was like right over here. I'm sorry if I'm not showing it in the screen. So I had like laid out in this handwriting with, I'm right-handed, so I'm just hash marks, 75, and I ran out of space. I couldn't keep up with how many, because I'm sitting there winning, and I'm like, I really ought to like record what's happening or something like that. I think at the time we might have had flip phones with a little camera, and there was nothing like that was going to happen like we do, these days that you see on other shows. Not something I do, not something I want to do. Not something I think it would help you. So somebody asked me to start doing that. I'm like, choosing the slot machine is what I teach. Sitting there winning is just like, so how did you find the slot machine is what I'm trying to show you. And you can't walk around a casino with a camera, because every face you see, you have to have a disclosure, signed disclosure. So anyway, I'd like to just because people are asking for it, but I don't think it's what you need, and I don't see how it'd be useful. Anyway, right. So I had this handful of little hash marks. And once I realized I needed to kind of keep track of a general idea of how many of the 25s and the 50, anything over 1,200, I had a hand pay, right? That's what started happening. But these little hits, I was just like, roughly how many am I getting? Once I realized my hand was getting full of these, I didn't want to like go up my arm or anything like that. I started just marking down. I used the last bit of space just to mark down how many $1,000 hits I got. I ran out of space in my palm once I got around 60 or so. I think I got as high as like 100. So, I might have tried harder, but then other things started happening. Other interesting things started happening. I won my first taxable jackpot. It was for $1,250, and I was overjoyed. So I'm going to share all the jackpots from this week that I'm talking about from 2004. So this is in my book. It's figured 3-2. If you have the audio book, it's professorslots.com/forms, where you can see my figures and diagrams, because you can't see them in the audio book, but you can go here and it's available to anybody. But this is the sequence. So I got there at 9 a.m., right? The first 4 collection. Got there at 9 a.m., won my first hand pay, the one where I was just telling you about, first hand pay ever in my life, $1,250 at 10:05 a.m., according to what was on the W-2G. And, the timestamp that I talk about. Iowa does that. I guess, is it Michigan doesn't? They kind of leave that box blank. So, this is all part of what I had at my gambling records. Even at the time, I was just keeping track. So time, day, and amount. And about an hour later, I won. Well, I'll get into this. So that was my first one. And, these days I know more than a few gamblers who've never won a taxable jackpot. Maybe you've never won a taxable jackpot. These slots enthusiasts wonder how it feels and asks, what's it like? And I've seen the I've seen the look on the faces of other gamblers when they describe it. Yeah, I've also happened to be sitting next to several gamblers when they won their first taxable jackpot with a couple of different responses. I think I told you that one time on a different live stream. Taxes? What do you mean I got to pay taxes? And I'm like, whoa, talk to the slot attendant. and others are, just overjoyed and shocked and all that. But it's a wonderful feeling. But it can also be a big mystery as to what happens next. So there you are making bet after bet on the slot machine you're playing when you notice that this time the reels have landed on an interesting combination of symbols. They seem familiar somehow, maybe something you'd seen in the pay table. So plus now the machine seems to be locked up. Is it broken? And it's definitely making lots of additional lights and sounds. Finally, you begin to notice that everyone nearby is looking at you with a strange combination of both delight and envy, maybe saying congratulations or big money. What could have possibly have just happened? So I still remember that first time. It was also my first experience with how helpful slot attendants are, which, I still appreciate. Nevertheless, it was a completely new experience for me. Slot attendants and other casino staff certainly deserve to be praised for how professional, supportive, informative, patient, and generally helpful they are to everyone. But this is especially true when they're working with first-time taxable jackpot winners. At first, I was mystified as to why the machine wouldn't allow another bet. It had been working just fine a moment before. I'd been winning a lot of small jackpots, and when doing so, always stop the machine roll up sequence. Was it 2 weeks ago? I put out a poll. It was in the newsletter, and that you can sign up for it on my website, but professorslots.com/subscribe. But and you get my 7 online resources. Anyway, for those of you who listen to the podcast, you've heard me say that many times. But I put out a poll asking, do you switch off that sequence or do you not switch off that sequence? What do you do? And most people, I think it came out to about 80%, said that, yeah, they cancel that. But, sometimes, and then there was like 10% that were like, well, sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's fun to watch. And the others, other people are like, I always let it go. I always let it play out. But I'm one of the people that cancel. So without that roll-up sound effects, because I canceled the sequence, it took me a moment to notice the actual amount of the win. At that time, I was not at all aware of the $1,200 lower limit for taxable jackpots, immediately taxable jackpots, the ones that result in a W-2G. However, I most certainly realized it was the largest jackpot I'd yet gotten by $250. My $1,000 jackpot from earlier, that on a quarter machine was the largest jackpot I'd certainly ever gotten. And this was more than that. It seemed like a lot more. And, these days I'm a laid off professional who, till a few months ago, used to be an engineer in the aerospace industry and may yet be again if that Phoenix thing works out. And this doesn't. So I'm glad to say that even as a lowly graduate student, I had my suspicions of what had happened, and so didn't try to tell the slot attendant that the machine was broken. I'm not sure I would have ever lived that mistake down, if only in my own mind. My records show that my first jackpot of $1,250 occurred at 10:05 a.m. on Saturday, April 3rd, 2004. That's on the screen, but not everybody is watching the video. Many people are listening to this in the podcast, so I'll verbally say these things instead of just point to them only. So within an hour, I won, and look at the times. Within an hour, I won another taxable jackpot, this for the amazing amount of $3,750. Let's think about this timing for a moment. 2 jackpots occurring 51 minutes apart, but not 51 minutes of betting occurring between them. About 15 to 20 minutes were taken up with the casino servicing that first jackpot and me sitting there waiting. So in actuality, there was only about 30 minutes of betting taking place between those 2 jackpots. I know now that's pretty close together. It wouldn't be the last time this happened, though, not at all. So servicing a taxable jackpot involves more than a few process steps. I believe I have that kind of thrown up here. I'm not going to really go into this in detail. I have this available as a separate article, and I'm not sure if we'll necessarily go over it in one of the live streams. We'll see. Trying to there's trying to stay on top of the most important things. And this is just for beginners. It's when you get started, this is one of the things I'll direct you towards if you're new to slots, like many people are. So, right. So even in 2004, for quicker service, slot machine attendants were equipped with a portable headset, no smartphones, but for dispatcher communication, they were notified of the taxable jackpot immediately to hurry over to the waiting patron. The servicing itself is a process with multiple steps. I'm showing them on the screen. No need to go into detail, some of which the patron is aware of and others which they are not directly involved with. So setting aside the questions asked and the explanations given during the servicing of my first jackpot, what's going on? The servicing of a taxable jackpot is relatively straightforward once you've been through it a time or two. So the process for servicing a taxable jackpot has different responsibilities for the three entities involved: the slot machine, the casino staff, and the player. For the uninitiated, I explain these steps elsewhere. A link is in the show notes and the video description, podcast show notes and the video description. So despite all the assistance and professional services being provided by the casino staff for these two, and I will come back to the list here. So despite all this help, I began to feel slightly emotionally overwhelmed, as well as hungry, and far more caffeinated. The beverage services were right there, and I was drinking lots of caffeine. So I felt like it was too much of that going on to continue in a clear thinking manner. Remember, I was also winning quite a few smaller jackpots, most of which were more money than I'd seen at any one time for years as a poor college student. I went home, ate a late lunch, and tried to get some sleep, some much needed sleep. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I really needed to be back at the casino playing that slot machine. Thinking is all well and good, I told myself, but sometimes it's time for action. So there I was in the casino at 10 p.m. So if you look at the list here, you'll see that the third one, switched over from 10 to basically 11 a.m. and then started again. Jackpot started again at 10:16 p.m. So I got there about 10 p.m. And 16 minutes later, here I won a jackpot, another taxable jackpot for $1,500. Then, a few minutes before midnight, I won my largest jackpot yet. This jackpot was $6,250. Then that did it for me. I was done with my first day of winning taxable jackpots, having won 4 of them, totaling $12,750. I tried to share how this felt. To put it into perspective, it's necessary to understand that as a lowly graduate student at the time, living on a university engineering research stipend, that last taxable jackpot was half my annual gross salary. Okay. In addition, the total for all 4 taxable jackpots actually was my annual gross salary. I just doubled my annual salary. What the heck? So yes, I collected my winnings at the end of that first day, went home and stayed there for a while. After 4 hours of sleep, look at the list, 5:36 a.m., won my last taxable jackpot, 11:47 p.m., takes 20 minutes to get that all processed. And so I was out the door just after midnight, and I was, half an hour away, try to miss all the deer in Iowa at I-35. And then I was back at the casino early the next morning. I stayed until what? Yeah. So I went back. I stayed. I got there. I stayed from about 6 a.m. Because I won a little before that until about noon. And I won 3 more taxable jackpots for a total of $6,500 that day, not including the usual uncounted number of small taxable jackpots. I also tried playing a few other slot machines. I'm struggling to learn. I'm trying to learn. What can I do to learn? So these were not the $1 denomination machine I had been playing and winning at, but only lost money on these other slot machines. Then I tried others. Others was an indication that despite the distractions of what was going on with that single slot machine, I was still trying to understand how winning actually worked during slot machine gambling. That Sunday afternoon and night, I remember trying to catch up on my sleep after I went home, and how difficult it was to ignore the $9,600 bills on my nightstand next to my bed in my cheap studio apartment. I think it was 635 square feet or something like that. So just so I wouldn't have to look at them, I tried to cover them up with a book, which, barely kind of tilted over and almost slid off, and it made me laugh. It struck me funny how the book kind of got propped up, almost sliding off, and it was not helpful in reducing how distracted I'd become with all that cash just sitting there. I'd most certainly never ever had that much cash. On Monday morning, I made a bank deposit of $9,600 and spent the rest of the day working at the university and avoiding the casino. So yeah, all this, seeing the questions. I'll check in on the live chat again in a minute when I find a good break here. So the next day on Tuesday, I withdrew $2,000 from my bank account, and after having taken a day off and returned to the casino after work. From around 5 p.m. to 9 p.m., I won another 4 taxable jackpots, this time totaling $5,000. And you can see those here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Am I missing one? Or is one after midnight? My count's off by, I said 4. Yeah, that's right. It's 5 p.m., but only 4 taxable jackpots. Right. So that's right. And $5,000 total, 4s and 5s. Then I did something I thought courageous at the time, yet also knew to be unresearched and therefore fairly stupid. What does Niels Bohr, the famous physicist, say from, I think it's the Netherlands? He said, an expert is someone who's made every possible mistake within a narrow field. So when I decided to leave, I noticed the high limit slot room. I went in. I admit that I briefly thought about what I was about to do. In my mind, I hadn't even had the $5,000 in my hand for more than a couple of minutes. So what if I lost $3,000 of it? This is edging into a gambling problem. It's not real money. I just won it, sort of thing. So I'd still have the remaining $2,000 that I walked in with. So after having done no prior research, having made no prior assessment of the high limit slot room in that high limit room, I barely, with barely a careful thought in my head, I put $3,000 into one of the $100 denomination 1 credit slot machines and hit the maximum bet button until it was all gone. And all gone, it truly was. That I lost $3,000 without a single jackpot, taxable or otherwise. Again, my mistake was that I hadn't done a bit of preparation, research, or assessment beforehand, not one bit. And with that loss of that much money, almost a third of my annual salary at the time, I just paid dearly for not doing so. While the loss of that $3,000 was a painful personal lesson on what happens when not being prepared, I place a high value on the experience. I believe that loss prevented far greater gambling losses later. Imagine, if you will, what would have likely happened if I had won. On that machine, the lowest possible jackpot was over the non-taxable limit. If I'd won it, I'd have felt encouraged to continue then and most likely later with other winnings. However, what would likely have happened, maybe other winnings, what would have likely happened if I'd won a medium-sized jackpot for that machine, say 100,000, or far worse, the $250,000 maximum jackpot? That $3,000 loss taught me relatively cheaply to accept that I was truly unprepared to win. I need to be better prepared. I returned 3 more times to that casino over the next few days, limiting myself to playing only that $1 denomination, 5 credit, 5 times play or pay a game themed slot machine on which I've been winning taxable jackpots. While I won only one taxable jackpot each on Thursday and Friday, as you can see on the screen, and I should probably close that down at this point. On Saturday, I made a decent profit on both trips. That's not shown on the screen. That's elsewhere. Anyway, on Saturday, however, it all came to an abrupt end. And this, again, losing has always taught me so much more. Winning's good. You learn a lot, but why did you win? And sometimes you need the contrast. You need to know what good looks like, and you need to know what bad looks like. So I gambled on 5 days over a 7-day period, sometimes visiting the casino twice a day. I'd won 13 taxable jackpots totaling $28,500. By the way, call that 30,000, and 10,000 went back into the machine. 10,000 went to taxes, and which I would eventually get back. Most of which I'd eventually get back, and $10,000 was cash that I had in my bank account. So at the time, my best estimate for the number of non-taxable jackpots was about twice that, at $60,000. That's at the time. In hindsight, with what I know now about bankroll cycling, it was more likely twice that, around $120,000. Not having, I didn't even use the rewards card during that week. I really didn't know how much it was, but I think we can make a fair estimate these days. So as mentioned, my first slot machine gambling experience ended abruptly on Saturday. With $500 in cash in hand, I returned to the casino that morning. I went to the slot machine I'd been winning at, and as usual, inserted my difficult insert $500, 5 $100 bills. Again, as usual, I then proceeded to make the maximum bets of $5 each. That $500 bankroll was gone in 15 minutes without a taxable jackpot. Although I do recall a single non-taxable jackpot. I shouldn't say non-taxable. Under $1,200 jackpot, I won once. Total, one time for that $500, I won the cherry symbol. I won $25. To say that I was stunned was an understatement. And, the telling you the story about winning is all great and stuff. You see videos on other YouTube channels where they win and maybe they edit out the hour where they lost, whatever. It's kind of nice to sort of have that. And this is what I'm trying to offer there. But the really important part here is that it stopped. What the heck? So over the next weeks and months of 2004, I would return less and less, often each time with less and less cash, and always have the same lackluster result. For some reason, I didn't yet understand it was over, but the thinking had only just begun. Over this same time, and the next year and the year after that, I began to develop theories. I began to reverse engineer my experience. I began to truly understand what had happened. I finished engineering graduate school, at least this one, and got my first professional job working as an engineer in Connecticut, Iowa to Connecticut. Naturally, early on, I went to one of Connecticut's tribal casinos to try to win again, Mohegan Sun this time. But it was obviously nothing like the same experience. This encouraged me to go back to thinking and working to understand what the heck had happened to me at Prairie Meadows over those 6 days of winning. What did I know? I knew that after 6 days of playing on all different times of the day for most days of that week, this one slot machine near the bar had suddenly gone from paying out huge numbers of small wins as well as hand pay jackpots on a $1 machine. What the heck? I'm probably saying what the heck too much, to not playing out more than a few dollars, if that. It didn't take much thought to realize that its odds of winning had been significantly lowered. It was not randomness. It was deliberate. That's what I knew. I didn't know why. I just, it's what's going on. So at some point between when I left on Friday night and came back in on Saturday, casino staff had physically opened the machine and manually lowered its payout odds. This is what you did before computer servers, remotely changed the odds. You opened up the door and you use the power report and you click, set the settings to the factory settings that would change the odds. and I should probably do something some other time, but it'd just be a math-filled presentation and it'll give you a headache. I think you're actually more interested in when I talk about slots history than you are when I talk about math. but I hadn't even known that the odds of winning on a slot machine was adjustable. If I had known, I would have made an effort to gamble while I could still win, especially on those 2 days when I didn't gamble at all. I had no idea such a physical change could and would eventually happen, but then I was ignorant about a lot of things regarding slot machine gambling. How could I not be with so little preparation? My idea about how the slot machine stopped paying out was to think about why it had been paying out in the first place. Why am I going on about this? What point am I making? Well, here's my point. 9 years, 7 months, 10 days, 6 hours, and 6 minutes later, I went into another high-limit slot room, much better prepared, and proceeded to kick its butt. Starting in 2012 until only a few years ago, it was important to understand whether your casino had a central server in which all the slot machines were connected. I used to have to explain to slots enthusiasts how to tell the difference, mostly by examining the Players Club card interface. It was an LED sign, like outside of a bank that shows the temperature, or was it a touch screen? So of course that's all over now, except for riverboat casinos with hulls instead of floors, where you could run the cables under a floor, but you can't, there's no space when it's a hull. And also like convenience stores, slot machines, where there's a couple of slot machines and a gasino or something like that. It actually has to be a casino, if you know what I mean. It's an overused word. Veterans of foreign wars sites have slot machines. I mean, you might call them a casino, but what I mean is, something that has the wherewithal to invest in the operating system and needs the operating system if they're going to have like a slot tournament. And if you have, call it less than 50 slot machines, maybe less than 35 slot machines, you're not going to pay that extra bit because it's not, worth it. But if you have more than that, you can't afford not to have it. So getting back to this, a casino has promotional funds available to encourage gambling in many ways. They can send you, you might even call it marketing. Receiving email flyers in the mail is casino marketing. But there's also marketing designed to encourage you to stay in a casino once you get there. Setting up certain kinds of slot machines near common areas where winning can be seen by many patrons at once who then go off to gamble themselves at other slot machines is simply a non-advertised promotional event. And, maybe to be promotional, it needs to be advertised. I'm calling it an invisible, a hidden promotion. Anyway, these promotional, these events require promotional funds, and they're on a limited budget. So these slot machines are not always going to be set up to win. If not set up to win, which should be obvious after less than 20 bets, a slot enthusiast wishing to use this strategy needs to recognize that it's simply the situation at that time. To implement this particular strategy, come back and try it at a much later time, like months later. Further, consider when is the best time of the year to try the strategy. What time of the year might a casino be using their promotional funds to encourage gambling? A clue can be found here from my list of taxable jackpots. What month is it? It's a week in early April. Did you know gambling is seasonal? Gambling is seasonal. April is the peak for gambling, for slots gambling. Winter's over, spring has arrived, and parents wanting to go on family vacations are still waiting for children to get out of school. This is when people most want to gamble and when casino operators prepare for them to do so. Otherwise, if you've successfully found a winning slot machine, what then? Are you ready for what comes next to, do the things I didn't do to optimize performance and maximize profits? In other words, what's your plan? When I won 13 taxable jackpots over 9 days using this strategy more than a decade ago, my performance was not optimal, nor did I maximize profits. Why? Put simply, I was not prepared to win. I planned I played that winning slot machine for only a few hours at a time. I even skipped 2 of the 6 days it was set up to win. To truly optimize performance and maximize profits when using this strategy, at least one trusted partner is necessary. Optimal play with this approach is to keep playing without stopping for anything, except momentarily due to paperwork for taxable jackpot hand pays. The basic plan should be to never stop playing that winning slot machine 24 hours a day for 7 days a week. Again, have at least one trusted partner. Even so, fair warning, it'll be exhausting. Further, it will become important, if possible, to not cause a technician to service the slot machine. I suggest limiting one's own personal use of the cash in and the voucher in-out features of the slot machine. Avoid filling the cash bin or the voucher bin or using all of the voucher paper. Eventually, this winning slots strategy will be due to have its odds of winning changed by the casino based on their schedule. As we have discussed in other live streams, we can try to prevent remote changing of the odds by leaving your card or bankroll in the machine as long as possible. Is this a winning strategy? Yes, it is. It's not numbered. I don't have it as one of my 7. It's the original winning strategy from which all others branch out from. Now, it has 7, we'll call it 7 younger siblings, or maybe I should call them grandchildren, 7 grandchildren. It still exists itself, only changed in so much that it's no longer a casino's only option to encourage you to stay and spend money at a casino, meaning the casino now shares its marketing budget with the other strategies like the 5-pull method. Before, when all alone, this marketing tool was designed to rattle the most hardened slots enthusiasts, to metaphorically make the casino go boom and shake the windows. Now that casinos, not that casinos have windows, which is again marketing. Honestly, no clocks on the walls either. You notice nowadays it's mostly just the slot machines mostly just slot machines over by the bar, on which you could make a nice little profit, usually. Watch for it. Now that you know to look for it. Sometimes it still goes boom. How are we doing in the live chat? I see Catherine has joined us from Portland. Whoops. Hopefully she wasn't hit by the odd notices, which maybe are in my mail at this point. Do I think that payouts are lower with the casino losing so much money? Yeah, as I mentioned, if you're going to Las Vegas, just take a look for yourself. You won't have October because October's not over yet. But in 2 weeks, you would have October. Certainly September's already there. It's monthly for Nevada. And look, there's opinion. I'm happy to give opinion for like October when the results aren't out yet. But if whenever possible, I just go to the data. All right. Yep. And he says, will do, or he or she. Yeah, this was all in Magpie 11. Yeah, this is all on the same machine. There was 2 machines of this game on it in the casino. One was in a dark corner. It wasn't quite dark, but it was certainly in a corner, non-trafficked area overlooking the escalators. So definitely not central. And the other one that I could find was in a busy area, and that's the one I played. Let's see. Yeah, I've been told that mixing up bets help. And I think what you mean by that is maybe if it's a multi-denominational machine to change the denomination. But I've also heard changing the number of credits. I haven't found a pattern. I haven't suggested whether you should go up or you should go down. It's something, for me to kind of look into a little bit more to see if I can find out, what exactly to do. But I've heard people say that mixing up the bets can help. Dave says, I don't sit and wait. Hop to another machine and spend more money while I wait. The only thing I would worry about there, Dave, is maybe have 2 players cards so you can keep your one in the original. That way you don't have to wait for it, but you also, close that window for remote changing of the odds. Jason, last weekend I had 3 taxable jackpots within 45 minutes. Yeah, it happens, right? 15-minute wait in between each jackpot to receive hand pay. 3 different machines for $6,400, $1,200, and $2,000. Great feeling. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? I always, what I love, we talked about winning your first hand pay, but I like the first hand pay of the day. It's kind of like my favorite. I know there's lots of people who never got one, but when you get the first one and you have your your gamble box or whatever that you might have, an empty pocket that you put your winnings into, and when you have the money that you came in with tucked aside, I kind of relax at that point, and I seem to do better when I'm relaxed. Talk about a tip! I seem to do better when I'm relaxed. Paula said, is it nice to have a column for amount invested? Absolutely. I call it stake. So my financial, that's what I showed you before was a summary of the jackpots, but in my financial, to do gambling records, there's a whole section on gambling records, and I barely, did we just get Did we just get a win? We did. Bruce, thank you, Bruce. Excellent. Thank you for the super chat. Right. So trying to, that's something in we should, I usually go over gambling records just before tax season, but on the other hand, it's a bit late for the previous year. So I try to do it a couple times a year, talk about that. But yeah, you want to know how much you went in with. Jason, I went to casino. Let's see here. Maybe I'll just share this myself if I can find it. Yeah, so I went to a casino with $370 that night, tripled money on lower $1 slots before moving up to $5 slots on high limit and hitting 3 jackpots. Slots are not always that loose at Firekeepers. There's more going on there than you've explained, like why and when, and is that a pattern? And did you notice the sounds were getting busy? And there's stuff going on. And congratulations. Right. So hi, Carmen. Nice to see you. Hey, Larry's here. So the clocks went back in the UK last Saturday, so I've missed today's show. I'm so sorry. Ours is happening tonight. And so it's a very wet and windy England. Great to have you here, Larry. It's been a while. Richard and Lisa are attending Harrah's Cherokee this weekend. Let me see if I can do a better job of sharing some of this. And Richard and Lisa attending Harrah's Cherokee this weekend to practice new insights. Great focus topic, John. Thank you. You're welcome. And so Joyce says, what's going to happen when turn the climax tonight? Oh, I this applies to the best to my strategy number 7, win, walk away, return later, and start on the same machine 1 week later, 5 minutes before. And I've always been struggled with the time change. Do I change the times or do I not change the times? And I would say change the times because computers automatically adjust. There was a time when we all had to go in and adjust our iPhones before iPhones, but now it's all automatically adjusted. So everything's been reset. And so, yes, if, last week you won a jackpot on Monday at 5 p.m., then, it's still 5 p.m. this coming Monday, even though the hour has changed, because the computer changed with it. And this is really the algorithm in the computer and in the central server. So move with it. Now, then you get, some of the confusing stuff, like, where in Indiana, where I drive across the time zone. Anyway, so Bruce says, getting ready to play a 9-line machine. Here's the first bet with $1 added. Thanks for your knowledge. Thank you, Bruce. Yes, I was trying, give the professor a spin. If you make a bet on a slot machine, single bet, donate that as a tip, if you care to. We'll see. I had to work on my own marketing. So Buddy and Brandy Jackson, I am from, last question, I think. Yep. I am from Arkansas. Can I play at the Charity Nose in Oklahoma Durant, and they have machines that they call red screens. Have you heard about them? I have heard about them. Join professorslots.com/FB for Facebook, FB/ it's AR, right, for Arkansas. And also, and there should be some people there. Also join the Oklahoma one because that's a game that's also often in Oklahoma, FBOK. And those private Facebook groups, free. There's people there to talk about those. And, I always like to point people to locals. The nearest tribal casino here is 4 hours away. I hope to go there next week, although it's a busy week with holidays, my birthday. I think we're doing something on Tuesday. And then I think I'm going to be exhausted for 3 days. Excellent. Right. Speaking of time, Paula says, thank you, Paula. Thank you so much, everybody. Let's see. I did want to say one last thing, which was watch more of my videos to improve your slots gambling performance. Happy Halloween. Bye. Remember to visit professorslots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. This is the next segment of the show on slot machine casino gambling. Here I provide a brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or the federal district, emphasizing by far anything of interest to slot machine casino gamblers. Up next is Alaska slot machine casino gambling in 2020. Here goes. Alaska slot machine casino gambling exists in the form of Class II electronic gaming machines at community bingo halls. Many locations also offer pull tabs. Cruise ships offer onboard casinos when cruising in international waters. The minimum legal gambling age in Alaska depends upon the gambling activity. For pull tab sites, it's 21. For bingo, it's 19. For poker rooms, the lottery, and parimutuel wagering, it's not available. In 1960, the state legislature established a law allowing charitable fundraising events to offer games of skill. With this statute in place, the Federal Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, IGRA, of 1988 allows tribes to offer Class II electronic games as well as other games of skill such as pull tabs. Next up is a usually short statement about slot machine private ownership, which I have included in case you live in this U.S. state and are considering owning a slot machine. Here it is. Private ownership of a slot machine in Alaska is legal if not offered as a gaming device used for real money gambling. Alaska does not have a state gaming commission, gaming control board, or state lottery. As established by federal law, the National Indian Gaming Commission regulates Alaska's Class II bingo-style gaming facilities through the IGRA. These community bingo halls also offer bingo-style gaming machines and pull-tab games, a type of paper-based lottery card, recognized in 1960 by the state statute as a skill-based game. In this section, I'll discuss gambling establishments. In Alaska, there are a handful of American Indian tribal community bingo halls as well as several international cruise ships making seasonal visits to Alaska's coastal cities. The largest community bingo hall in Alaska is Mick Gaming Hall, having bingo-style electronic gaming machines and pull tabs. There are no land-based commercial casinos in Alaska, but international cruise ships visit Alaska's coastal cities. These ships have onboard casinos open for passengers while cruising in international waters. 7 or so community halls in Alaska offer bingo, pull-tab games, or both. As usual, when there are too many casinos to mention here, a complete list and map is on my website for this state at professorslots.com/AK. As an alternative to enjoying Alaska slot machine casino gambling, consider exploring casino options in nearby Canada or onboard cruise ships to international destinations. In Anchorage, there is Crystal Cruises, the Crystal Serenity, and in Juneau, Royal Caribbean International, Radiance of the Seas. Chance's Prince Rupert Casino in British Columbia, 50 miles from Ketchikan, has 100 slot machines and 12 table games. Are you interested in sharing and learning with other slots enthusiasts in Alaska? If so, join our Alaska Slots community on Facebook at professorslots.com/FBAK. All you'll need is a Facebook profile to join this private Facebook group freely. There, you'll be able to privately share your slots experiences as well as chat with players about slots gambling in or near Alaska. Again, use this convenient link I've created to go directly to our group on Facebook, professorslots.com/FBAK. Join us. As is typical in most states with Class II gaming, Alaska has no theoretical payout limit set, nor are return statistics publicly available. In summary, Alaska Slot Machine Casino Gambling exists as skill-based Class II electronic gaming machines at community bingo halls, with some locations offering pull tabs. Cruise ships offer onboard casinos with games of chance when cruising in international waters. Over the last year, the Qualock IRA pull tab shop closed. Also, hopefully only temporarily disrupted, is Chance's Prince Rupert Casino in Canada, as well as Alaskan cruise ships to international destinations. Remember to visit ProfessorSlots.com/subscribe to get my free report revealing the top 7 online resources for improving your gambling performance, including the one I've used as a top-tier slot machine casino gambler. Part 1 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast will include a live stream Q&A session on YouTube. Next week's live stream will be about 5 ways Nevada leads the slots industry. Remember, my weekly Q&A session on YouTube is on Saturdays from noon until 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Bring whatever slots questions you have, and I'll do my best to answer them. An easy-to-remember link to my YouTube channel is youtube.com/ProfessorSlots. Feel free to stop by anytime during my hour-long live Q&A session. Part 2 of the next episode of the Professor Slots podcast is another brief overview of the current state of gambling in a U.S. state, territory, or the federal district. Next time, I'll be talking to you about the great U.S. territory of American Samoa. That's the end of another great episode of the Professor Slots podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Show notes for this episode are on my website at ProfessorSlots.com/episode 115. I plan to have the next episode come out very soon for you, where I'll have more amazing content for the show. Until the next episode, have fun, be safe, and make good choices. Bye.